All right. Hi, everybody. It's Crystal Lynn here, and I am I am coming to you live from my living space. And today we're going to be talking about divine connections. So I wrote a blog this week, and it's called Dancing with Divine Connection. And I should have a link to that blog somewhere right here. I'm going to get that right now because we need to have that link, don't we? Yes, we do. Boom. Uh-oh. Note to, let's see. Note to Rebecca. The blog for this week isn't on the blog. Help. So sorry, guys. I'm having some technical difficulties with my blog, and just Mercury retrograde is really just not being my friend these days, and I'm suffering. So, there's that. So anyway, I'm going to just jump in, although I want my blog open. Let's see. Hold on. Sorry. Let me do it this way. I'm going to open it over here from my content calendar. For whatever reason, it's not there. And Tuesday, the blog should have been shared, so I don't know why it's not there, or is it? Oh, it's on my blog. My blog is, there it is. Ha, boom, it's here. So for those of you who are on the call, I am going to put the link to the blog, just in case you didn't get it. I'm going to put the link to the blog in the chat. And if you are watching me on Facebook, then I'm going to just pop this link here in the Facebook. Okay. Edit post. Boom. Here's the link, Dancing with Divine Connection. There's the link. Boom, save. All right. So thank you so much for joining me today. I am Crystal Lynn Bell, and I'm a spiritual life coach. And my job is to help people connect with their spirit so that they can make meaningful improvements and changes in their life in the 3D world. And for me, I am I'm very, very spiritual. I have a real connection with spirit and the world beyond the veil. But I also really love living my three-dimensional life. And I like being in this world. So I'm not one of those spiritual people who's kind of like, I don't really want to be here. I'm just waiting for, for the earth to ascend and for, just to be with God. I'm 52 years old, or I will be 52 years old next Wednesday. And what I've learned is that God is here right now. And the best thing that I can be doing with my life is enjoying life on earth and incorporating God into everything that I do. So the article this week, Dancing with Divine Connection, is about understanding that your life here on earth is meant to be rich, wealthy. I don't care about how much money you have or how much property you own. That's not the kind of richness and wealth that I'm talking about. I'm talking about rich and abundant with connection to spirit, to your spirit guides, to your intuition, to God, but also rich in your connection to Mother Nature, to the earth, to the land, to crops, to the forest, to the seas, right? To the oceans, to the lakes, to the rivers, to animal life, to the birds. That, to me, is what makes life so rich. And the more we can learn to appreciate the simple things in life, just being present, being still, the better our lives will be. I think that life begins with silence and stillness and love and peace. Gosh, I'm totally, I don't usually do cliches, but I'm totally doing the cliches right now. But I think that's true. To me, those are the first things, and then everything else comes after. And all those other things that are coming after should enhance the stillness and the peace and the love. And if it's not, then there's no place for it. Now, when challenges come up, okay, and there are some real challenges that can be really hard. So sometimes I see women with children that are screaming their heads off. Their children are screaming their heads off. And sometimes those women look really like they are ragged, like they are just tired. They've just given so much and they are just shot. Okay, the moms look kind of beat down. And then I see these women whose kid is screaming and they're just kind of like, kids scream, you know? Sometimes they scream. What are you going to do? It's a child, it screams. You know, like, that's a dog. It's barking. Dogs bark. And there's just an attitude of non-resistance to this thing that I would call a challenge. She don't even act like it's a challenge. Her screaming child is not a challenge to her because she's just accepting that the child is going to scream. And I remember 20 years ago, friends with little kids, and the kids would be screaming or upset. And the parents would be parenting them in whatever way they parented. And then you see that girl, and she's 20 years old, and she's beautiful, and she's smart. She's going to college. How she went from being that little brat to being that beautiful 20-year-old woman on her way to college, gonna go do something, raise her own family. I must be getting old. Because 20 years ago, I was like, that screaming child, you know, problem, resistance. And now I would give anything to have a screaming child of my own. Hey, I'm dancing with divine connection. I'm growing up in the way that I grew up. So let me talk to y'all about divine connection and dancing with divine connection. What in the world did I write this article about today? So I don't know if you know this, but I certify women to become badass butterfly spiritual life coaches. So you can actually get a certification to become a badass butterfly spiritual life coach. And I teach you how to set up your business, okay? One of the things you have to know in order to be a badass butterfly spiritual life coach is how to connect to the divine. Now, a lot of people are very much, they can be either one way or the other. They are very much connected to the divine, but they can't get anything done in the 3D world, or they're really efficient in the 3D world, but when it comes to that divine connection and surrendering to the feminine, they're just like, I don't know how to do that. How do I do that? What are you doing right now with your eyes closed? Are you meditating? Are you oming right now? What is that? What is that supposed to do? I try to do that and my mind goes crazy. I don't like sitting still. Look at me. Look at this posture. Okay. We all know people like this. All right. So for me, divine connection is really, really an important part of life on earth. having a connection to the divine feminine and being able to flow with the divine feminine. Oh my God, is my eyelash off? I realize that my eyelash is feeling really funny. No, my eyelash is still on. Thank God. Okay. So having a connection to the divine is super important. Okay. But as I said earlier, you also have to have a connection to the material. You still have to get things done on a regular basis. So in my article, I talk about dancing with divine connection, and I really do liken it to actually dancing. And here's why I love this dancing reference. You know, when you're dancing with a man, like you're doing salsa, for example, and the tradition is that the male leads and the female follows. Now, what happens if you're a woman and you go dance with a guy and he's doing his job as the leader, but instead of you just relaxing and going with the flow, you start leading? What you have are two people working against one another. So your dance, instead of looking wonderfully elegant and flowy, which is kind of the art of the dance, you end up with something that's kind of like a tussle. Like it's a tussle between two people who are both masculine. Okay. So what we want is to be able to embody the divine feminine and go with the flow, but know how to take that feminine energy and channel it into something that is useful and practical. And that's going to help us feel successful in our lives. Okay. So in my article, here we go. Boom. I'm going to read you the first part of this article, just because I think it's kind of cute. Okay. There's something divine about dancing. Ancient dances like hula, mapuka, presently known as twerking, haka, belly dancing, and more continue to move our hearts and our bodies today. So do modern styles from ballet to breakdancing, with new variations emerging every year. Many religions, like Judaism and Sufism, include dance as an integral part of celebrating the divine. But anybody who's ever been enchanted by a groove knows something transcendent happens when you surrender to the rhythm and allow the music to move through you. Badass butterflies are a lot like expert dancers. Dancers embody divine masculine qualities like strength, structure, and discipline. And they embody divine feminine qualities like flexibility, fun, and flow. Similarly, badass butterflies integrate years of skillful practice with their direct connection to spirit. So basically, we're using both of these parts of ourselves to create something very beautiful, lyrical, and magical. And that is our opportunity as we're living our lives on a daily basis. So in the article, I give you some ways to help you open up and listen to that divine feminine aspect. Because even though I was kind of joking in the beginning when I'm like, you're either super feminine or you're super masculine, you're either super into the woo-woo, spiritual flow, or you're very much into like getting structures done. Well, the thing is, a lot of people who come to me are really very much on that masculine side, where they're accomplished. You're getting things done. You're taking care of your family. You're managing your job. Well, you've got to make space to listen to the divine and invite more divinity into your life. The first thing you have to do is meditate. And I know I talk about this all the time, but the fact of the matter is you do have to meditate on a regular basis. And to be honest with you, even though to me this is the hardest form of meditation, you need to do it, my friend. Silent mind meditation, stillness, where all you do is you don't think about nothing. You stop your brain and you just focus on a dot. That's all you do. You don't think nothing. And your brain will come in and be like, I want to think about that dot. No, you just quiet it. You don't analyze it. You don't chastise it. You just stop it. You shut it down. You go back to the dot. The amount of space that you find in your head and in your being when you silence your mind is mind blowing. It is so peaceful. It is just, it's like exquisite. That is when you are right there with God. When you still your mind and you are not thinking, you're not analyzing, you're not putting things here, you're not doing that, you're not trying to figure anything out, you're just being, all you see behind your eyes, just God. It's amazing. And it's amazing how when you do that, the peace is palpable. It's like you can feel the energy. So yes, do this on a regular basis, and even just doing it for that 5 seconds. Let's do that together, y'all. Let's take 5 minutes. Now, if you are driving, you don't do this, okay? If you're driving, you keep your eyes open, but you can breathe, okay? Just be present, breathe, drive, don't think, okay? Just be present, breathe, drive, okay? Drive. Me, and if you've got any space, let's just do 5 breaths together, okay? Here we go. Close your eyes and just breathe in and breathe, be still. Here we go. So that was nice. I'd love for you to tell me what you experienced in the chat. If you're on the call, just tell me what you experienced in those 5 breaths. When I'm meditating, I do really deep breaths, deep inhalation, slow exhalation. It's extremely relaxing for me. And I didn't realize this until recently, but I started, I count my breaths as part of my meditation practice. And I use the Insight timer, and it gives me, so the bell rings every 5 minutes. So I do 21 minutes and the bell goes off at 5 minutes. And I do 18 breaths over five minutes. So they're just nice, slow, deep breaths. And they're very, very grounding, okay? So if anybody has any input about what you experienced during that meditation, that 5 breath meditation, go ahead and pop your information in the chat for me. So that's one thing, okay? The meditation is one way to connect to the divine. Now, another way to connect with the divine is through abstract art. Now, you can either go to the museum and be around abstract art. You can also go online and just look up abstract art. I'm trying to think of this art, this online art community. God, I just love looking at their stuff. And I'm sorry that the name isn't coming to me. Perhaps it will come, maybe it will come to me soon. Anyway, so going online to look at art is also great, a really great experience. Particularly for me, I love going to the library, and I love going to an old library or a large library where there's a lot of either it's an old classic space, or it's just a gigantic library that is full of knowledge. I swear books have energy. Can y'all feel energy? Do you all feel the energy in books? When I go into the library, I swear I'm humming when I go into the library. And I used to make the trip to downtown Los Angeles so that I could go to Central Public Library, and I would have to pay something like $15 to go and do their parking until I figured out like some parking stuff. But I used to pay a lot of money just to go down there and to get stuff done and to read. But the thing I was going to suggest you do is to go in there and check out some art books and sit in that library and just curl up. Okay, at Central Public Library, there would be some homeless dude in there, snoring. I would listen to the sound of his snores, and I would just sit there and read or look at books. So you can look at art books there, and you can get some great quality art books at the library. That way you don't have to invest money in them if you don't want to spend a lot of money on books, if you don't have any extra money to spend, or you can't get to the museum. That's another way to do it. But then, of course, you have to also know that you can make your own art, okay? And I love doing vision boards. Like, that's kind of the place I make my art. And I do my vision boards in a book. So I shouldn't call them vision boards, but they're vision books. Basically, I'll write some poetry, then I'll get some glitter and some glue, and I'll sprinkle some glitter over it, or I'll draw something, and then I'll line it with the glue, with a glue stick, and then I'll put some glitter over it. And then it's a work of art, okay? You can do all sorts of art projects on your own and just enliven and give life to your own artistic endeavors, okay? Your own artistic talents. This is a great way to connect to the divine. Now, many of you don't know that I actually went to art school. I did. In one of my lives, I went to art school in California, okay? I was doing that. And I loved coming home and drawing and painting. It was just really, really rewarding. I would put on the music and I would just draw and paint for hours. And I would just be with spirit. The music would be going. I'd be singing at the top of my lungs, painting, using charcoal, using my rulers, to sketch and lay things out. It was magical. So I definitely recommend taking up an art that helps you to connect to the divine. And remember that the divine is really just you. It's in you. It's your energy. You don't have to know what God is, but you know what the feeling of being connected is. To me, that's God. And that seems to be good enough, okay? So I totally recommend that you spend some time connecting in that way. All right. Now, my next thing, okay, this should have been obvious. I probably should have put this first, but spending quality time in nature. That is such a powerful way to connect to the divine. Now, if you live in an apartment, you can get yourself some plants and make yourself a little, like fill your apartment with plants. If you're not good with raising plants, get yourself a cactus. Even though you won't touch your cactus, that cactus still has Mother Earth energy. And the act of nurturing and caring for your cactus is a very spiritual thing. It creates a bond between you and that cactus. And by the way, cacti are very, very spiritual. When you talk to them, you can actually feel the response. They're very, very intelligent. So get yourself whatever kind of plant that you love and bring that into your environment. I'm very blessed. Well, I'm very blessed, but I also made a choice. I made a decision that I needed to be close to nature. So I live with the forest in my backyard, like literally. I walk out of the house, I walk to the left, I make a quick left, and I'm walking in mud, and I've got trees to the left, trees to the right. I then walk through a little bit, up a path, and then I'm knee deep in the French forest, and it's beautiful. The other day, Apollo and I, we went into a part of the forest. I didn't even know where we were, but we were at the top of this hill. Oh my God, a giant wild pig. Those things are dangerous. It did not have tusks. I realized that that was one of my spirit animals. She was so beautiful that it made me want to cry. And when I say she was beautiful, it's not like I mean she had a pretty face, because I don't think wild pigs are really all that pretty. But this, I want to say this woman was running so fast, and all I saw was strength and speed. And thank God I wasn't in her path, but she wasn't far from me. She was probably about, let's say, 100 yards from me. I think she was even closer than that, because I could see her herself. And she even made Apollo pause, and he's a real hunting dog, And boy, I'll tell you, when I saw her, my whole spirit just lifted. I felt so blessed that day to see her, and to see her running downhill with her long legs, like her, the length of her body stretching and pulling her along. I don't know what she was running from or where she was running to. God help, God help whoever was messing with her babies, because she would tear you down. Anyway, she was big and beautiful and just really powerful. Anyway, spending time in nature and allowing yourself to be silent, again, to let your mind be still, so that those trees, so that that ground can talk to you, is really powerful. Okay, I got one more to share. Connect with your subconscious. So the last thing on my list for connecting to the divine, obviously there are a million other things, but I wanted just to give you some quick, easy things, and things that I think are kind of fun, is connecting to your subconscious mind. Now, one way to do that is by free writing, okay, where you just take your pen and you just write with your paper. Write on your paper with your pen using your regular hand. Okay, that's one form of free writing. Now, a more powerful way of free writing is to put that pen in your left hand or your non-dominant hand, and then to free write using your non-dominant hand. Now, my trick for that, because when I write with my non-dominant hand, my left hand, I cannot understand what I've written, okay? But there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So what I do is I turn on my voice recorder on my iPhone, and I talk out loud what I'm writing. And boy, it's a little scary, especially when you listen to that voice afterward, because after you get going for like a minute, at first, the first minute is kind of like, oh, I'm in my head. But then after that, you're not in your head anymore, and you be saying some stuff. there's some stuff that comes through. So that's a wonderful way to connect to your subconscious mind. You can also dream journal. So when you wake up in the morning, just record your dreams first thing. Don't wait to do it because you lose that connection. Do it as soon as possible and write it out all the way. Write out all the details that you can when you're doing your dream journaling. Of course, using things like tarot cards is a great way to connect with your subconscious mind. There are meditations that you can do as well. Boom. Let's see. I kind of also want to say walking backward is a really great way to connect with your subconscious mind. So what you can do is just stand up, clear yourself a space, and then just take some steps walking backward and talking out loud and seeing what comes up for you. It's very, very interesting process. It's a way, it's almost like because you don't walk backward on a regular basis, you're throwing your mind off of its regular way of being. You're breaking the pattern of your normal thinking process. And so what you're doing is you're opening up a pathway for new expressions of yourself to come through. Things that were locked down are now unlocked because you're walking backward. I know you're like, Crystalline, what kind of stuff are you up to in your house? Yep, that's the kind of stuff I'd be up to. You want to know what I'd be doing at 4 o'clock in the morning when I get up? That's it. All right, that's all I have to say. That's my Divine Connection article. I want to invite you to chime in and join the conversation if you'd like. If you're shy, you can keep your camera off, but I want to invite you to unmute yourself and just chat. Boom. So my question would be, how do you connect? Like, what's your favorite way of connecting to the divine? Anybody, anybody? Anybody, anybody? I'm having a giggle watching the closed captions. What's your favorite? It says, what's your favorite way of connecting to the divine? Anybody, anybody? All right. Who wants to chat with me? Anybody? Anybody, anybody? All right. Y'all are going to be shy, but maybe you're not able to talk right now. And I respect that. But because there's no conversation going on, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this call. And you know, it's 7:36. It's kind of like my bedtime anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Actually, before I sign off and before you sign off, hold up, okay? If you've not joined the League of Badass Butterflies, I want to encourage you to come and join me in my Facebook group. It's a free group, and we're going to be doing more and more spiritual connection stuff to help you connect to the divine. Now, please keep in mind that that group is really geared for those of you who have the idea that you maybe want to become a healer or a spiritual life coach. So a lot of the work that we're going to be doing is talking about like how to heal, but also how to kind of build yourself as a coach, you know? So one of the things that's important to understand as a life coach is that you have to have your own spiritual philosophy. And a lot of life coaches come to me and they're like, yeah, I want to be a life coach. And I'm like, cool, what's your spiritual philosophy? And they're like, I don't know. I mean, I just love God. I'm like, that's cool. That's a great place to start with your spiritual philosophy. However, you're going to need to develop that because if you're going to be any kind of a spiritual professional, you actually need to have a really good foundation that shows that you've thought about the things that you're doing. You can't just be like, oh, I'm totally woo-woo. I don't think about things. I'm just woo-woo. No, you actually have to do your woo-woo, but you also have to think about it because a lot of our work is about educating people and helping people understand on a rational, logical level, like, you know, appealing to their human self about these spiritual things. That's part of our job. Sure, You can totally transfer energy and help things transform energetically without saying a word. You don't have to do any education. But the fact is, you have a spiritual philosophy. I know you do, because when you sit down and talk, you start talking about it. So you have a spiritual philosophy. So as a professional, you need to kind of start putting that in writing and getting really clear about it. Okay. So, for example, when I talk about a term such as divine connection, I'm using that word in a very specific way. You all might have different meanings for that word or that phrase, right? But I've done a lot of writing about divine connection, so I know what I mean when I say it. And so when you share your meaning of it with me, if we have the same kind of meaning, then we're okay. But if you have a different meaning for divine connection, maybe you, for example, divine connection to you means God, the Christian God, God the Father, of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. That could be what you mean. Well, that's your spiritual philosophy. My spiritual philosophy, when I talk about God, is actually about being connected to the universe and being connected to everything. And to me, you could call that God, but you could also call that Brahma, and some people might call that Allah. To me, it doesn't matter. It means I'm talking about that thing that means unconditional love and creativity, like creation. All right, anyway, that's the kind of stuff we'll be talking about in my League of Badass Butterflies. So if you get a chance, come over there and join me. All right. So thank you so much for coming online and joining me here this evening. It's 7:40 where I am. I'm not sure where you all are coming from. I know somebody on this call is in Colorado. The other ladies, the other people, I'm not totally sure. But anyway, welcome. Thank you. And I'll see you back here in 2 weeks where we'll be live streaming again. All right. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day or evening. Okay. Bye for now. Ciao.